Genetically modified food. New Oxford America Dictionary defines genetically modified an organism or crop containing genetic material that has been artificially altered so as to produce a desired characteristic. In the early years of 1990, genetically modified food was introduced. Since then, it has and still is a major part in our everyday lives. Unfortunately, many people are uninformed of how much biotechnology is used in their daily food diet and how popular the practice of genetically engineering food is surrounded by them. Just in America alone, approximately 80% of their processed food carries some kind of genetic modification. Most of the genetically modified foods are plants such as corn, soybeans, or tomatoes. Today, technology and science has now improved to contain genetic modification on animals and bacteria. The main reason genetically modified food exists is to help develop crop production. Every year, the world loses nearly 40% of food crop from insects, fungal disease, or spoilage. Due to the advantages of producing genetically modified food, there are disadvantages that are argued on this issue, which makes it an ethical dilemma. Benefits from genetic modified. By genetic engineering the food, it can enhance taste and quality, reduce the maturation time, and can increase the nutrients and stress tolerance. It may also improve the resistance from diseases such as fungal, pests, and herbicides. Also, it creates new products and growing techniques, conservation of soil, water, and energy, and it also increases the security of food for the future of growing populations. Controversies. Safety. The impacts on human health may cause allergens and unknown effects. As for the environment, it can create unknown effects on the organisms and the loss of flora and fauna biodiversity. Few of the companies, like Monsanto's, would have the domination of the world's food population. In some countries, labeling is not mandatory. It also tampers with nature by mixing the genes and foreign exploitation of natural resources. The question is, should countries allow to use the science of biotechnology to create our food, which contains genetic modification? The perspective of virtue would view the ethical issue of genetically modified foods being immoral, due to tampering with nature by mixing genes. The proper way to grow crops is natural. We should not use our science and technology to speed up the process, and applying more unnatural taste, color, and size to the appearance of the product. We are creating food that is ruining our environment and causing harm to our health. Also, they would not agree with how labeling is not mandatory in certain countries or how it is hidden on some products. Companies should be honest in telling their customers what is fully in their products. From this, a virtue would ban genetically modified foods from countries due to the large amount of circumstances that come along with its process. From an egoist perspective, the ethical issue of genetically modified food would be viewed as being a significant method due to producing food that is capable of growing under different circumstances, such as cold and drought tolerances. It also increases the amount of crops produced and keeps crops from being ruined from diseases, pests, and herbicides. products of food can be marketed at a lower price than natural organic foods. Also, it helps out companies to expand their businesses around the world due to the products being able to be fresh and last longer when being transported. It's a win-win situation with the companies and customers. Genetically modified foods should not be banned. It should be competition with the organic products. Farmers should have the choice to choose if they want to grow their crops in the form of genetic modification, as well as customers have the choice to choose which products they want to buy. The ethical perspective from fairness would view the ethical issue, genetically modified food, being an asset that should be used around the world. Companies that can produce genetic engineering food should have the chance to compete with the organic farmers and companies in the market of food. If genetically modified food is used, all countries should be able to grow genetically modified food. Companies that do produce genetically modified food should have the labels in clear sight when customers choose their items. Customers should have the fairness of knowing what they are receiving by buying the product. They too should be notified the speculations of side effects that are unknown. This way, it is fair competitions between companies and customers. Our views. Genetically engineering food is the wrong way to process healthy plant products such as vegetables and fruits. In our world today, there are too many crops around the world that are not growing enough natural organic products. Companies like Monsanto have a gigantic part in agriculture throughout countries. These companies do not have enough publication on the ingredients used and their process when making products. For over a decade, genetically modified food has been sold in public markets. Sadly, the outcome of some of the foods does not have the proper appearance like from an original organic crop. For example, the tomato on the left was grown from an organic crop. The one on the right was grown in the form of a genetically modified. From a customer's perspective, the size, taste, and a brighter exterior color would be the only difference between the two tomatoes. As for scientists who created the outcome, would be able to explain greater differences. Therefore, both of our views are against genetically modified food. It's wrong not to know what you're actually eating.